Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Broncos edition of the Man Hour podcast. I am your host, Nate the Great, and I have a special guest on with me today covering a post-game show for the Denver Broncos and the Dallas Cowboys preseason game. Jason McMinn, how are things going over on your side?
Life is good. As you can see, it's been crazy as usual. Lots of things going on in the NFL for sure, man. Jeez, man, what a time to be alive. Yeah, I tell you, Nate, the only thing that for me kind of sucks, but I get it, and I guess Gonzo was telling me on the afternoon show today why he couldn't understand, like why we had preseason games. There's chances for people to get hurt. And like I was telling him, I was like, I'm glad they're not really playing the starters this preseason. That they're going more to the secondary players that are on the bubble, that 30 men that they're going to have to cut at some point. I said, that's really what preseason is really about. It's not really seeing the starters. You know what the starters are going to do. And we really don't want to put them at unnecessary risk, especially since we expanded the season. So it really gives, the coaches an idea to evaluate, what they have, elsewhere with the invitees or the undrafted free agents or the free agents that they actually brought in themselves to kind of get an idea of what they can expect. And I try to tell Gonzo, you really don't have. You can do training camp without a preseason, but you can't see these guys in real game time action. So how are you going to, thoroughly evaluate them before you do the cutoff period? And I tell them that's what really, stands out. And so a lot of things came out in this preseason that was amazing. I thought it was kind of dumb for the Jets to play Wilson. I thought they should have gave him the day off. And of course, you can see where Wilson's at now.
I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I think it's really not so much. I think it's really unless if you're having a quarterback competition, I really don't think it's a good idea, or any type of competition. I really don't think it's a good idea to play the starters.
I was telling Gonzo, the only guy in the league I think that really, should be playing is Trey Lance. And I say that from the perspective that we have not seen any game time on him whatsoever. And now they're getting ready to make the big move from Garoppolo to Trey Lance. And the downside of Trey Lance is, is he really ready to take over the job? Well, you know, as a matter of fact, they've even said he's had a couple of bad training camps. So I guess for him, I would want to see him because before I cut Garoppolo and I cut ties with the last thing that can take me to any sort of playoffs, I need to see what I got in Trey Lance. And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But I don't know if I want to just completely let go of Jimmy G without knowing what I got in Trey. Because if I do that, and then I just ride with Trey, ride or die, and he doesn't pan out, well, now I got a whole lot of expensive contracts on my hand because the trade doesn't pan out. I have no field general, and there is nobody in the market out there available, that can give me what I need. So I think you do want to see what you got in Trey at the risk of injury. I think you play Trey a half, and then give the third and fourth or second, third, fourth, whatever the other half. But you got to know, and you need to know what you have going into the season. And like I said, training camp is not going to provide you.
Yeah, I agree. Um, but there is other person I think really should play besides Trey Lance, and this is coming from living in the area, but I think all of the Seattle Seahawks quarterbacks should play.
Oh,
Drew,
I mean,
Drew
I get
Lock,
what you're saying. I mean, they had Drew Lock, they had Geno Smith. I I don't know, man. I think you kind of know what you got in Geno as a backup. I think you kind of Drew Lock. I'm just, and I don't care how much game film I watch
I
on Drew
get
Lock, but I
that.
would say, but I get it too. At the same time, I can see why you'd play Drew Lock.
I get that, but I read that apparently Drew Lock has not had any first team reps at all.
Which is really weird to me. Why would you not be giving him
I
first team
get
reps when? Because surely you don't think Geno Smith is better than Drew Lock. Hell, come on now. That's crazy to me.
I think that's why I'm saying that. But now let's go into the one game
Oh, let
in
me just say one thing.
particular.
If they really thought that Geno Smith was the answer, well, hell, why not just go and get Colin Kaepernick? I'm pretty sure Kaepernick is way better than Geno Smith. let's be honest. I don't even care how long he's been out of the league. Look, he's been practicing. You can go watch the Raiders tape on him. They got plenty of tape on him, what he looks like currently. But give Cap a damn shot. I mean, if you're going to give Geno a shot, give Cap a shot.
I agree.
What the hell? Super cheap. And if he doesn't pan out, okay, what else?
No.
I'm just saying it makes sense to me. But okay, I apologize. I know I'm getting off the rant. Let me refocus back.
Okay. Now going back into this game between the Broncos and the Cowboys, I think that really the one thing that Mike McCarthy has to address going to the Cowboys side of things, the penalties.
Yeah, buddy. Listen, Nate. This is what I know about my Cowboys. I love my Cowboys, but I'm not a delusional person, Nate. I'm not delusional. What is the Cowboys fans that typically thinks that this is our year, we're going to go to the Super Bowl no matter what. Look, I'm realistic, but I will say this, Nate. You're trying to take the one thing that the Cowboys do consistently away from us. Now, I'm all about building great teams on consistency, and you want to take the one thing that we do consistently away? Okay, yes, it's penalties. I get it, and it's a negative. Say, well, Trey, you're talking about a consistent negative to your team. Well, I know that, but damn it, you got to start somewhere. No, the point I'm making fun of it, honestly, but it really isn't that far off from the damn truth. I mean, the Cowboys have not been consistent transitioning from regular season into postseason, right? I mean, consistently. Okay, look, you could take that one year where honestly the Commanders, I think, won the division and everybody was under 500 for crying out loud. So I don't really look at that year. That's just I'm gonna say it's a fluke because in order for it to be a routine or a pattern, it had to be multiple. And the Cowboys typically are always above 500 team. I mean, they're not below 500 very, very often. I think the last time they're below 500 was back in '89 when Tex Winter's on the team, and that's been a long time. So whether they've been in the Super Bowl or not, or in the playoffs or not, Cowboys have always consistently put an above 500 team out onto the field. And last year or the year before last was the first time that they failed to do so. But I think what this Cowboys team is at this point is they lack consistency getting from the regular season to the postseason. And I think everybody knows that. You know what I mean? And let me point out. Now, of course, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I am pointing out an obvious fact is that when we open up against Brady during the Super Bowl game or the Super Bowl year that he won, we played them week 1. We all know that the Cowboys won that game with the exception of their damn kicker. And this is the problem with the Cowboys. Every year, it's always something with them. It's not the play of the team; it's the play of the special teams. What I mean by that is, so if you look at that Tampa game, the one I'm referencing, we lost by 3 points, but the team. Dallas's field goal kicker missed a 35-yard punt. Plus, he missed a point after attempt. So we would have won by 1, but we lost by 3. So, I mean, in that specific game, it was special teams that killed the Cowboys. And then if you look at when Romo, I mean, if you go all even back to Romo days, when Romo botched the field goal attempt and it cost him the chance to advance to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, with the Cowboys, the one thing they consistently always do is either A, give up a lot of penalties, or B, just do a blunder of a play. And in last year's playoff game against the 49ers, you got both. You got penalties in the first half, and then you got the blunder as the last play at the end of the game. So really, last year's playoff game was a combination of what the Cowboys do every year, and which is just being inconsistent and putting out a quality product each and every playoff game. And they just have not been able to. They can do the regular season, no problem. But God forbid you get to the playoffs, and it's just been rough. You know what I mean?
Didn't they lead last year? Didn't the Cowboys lead the league in passing yards in the regular season?
And that's the thing. You see, the knock on Dak Prescott, and the reason why he's not top 10 is because he's not been able to advance in the playoffs. And we all know that. Dak advancing in the playoffs would put him in the top 10, I promise you. Because if it was just based on regular season performances and just regular season performances alone, then you got to say Dak's top 10. Just based on his touchdowns to picks to yards per game, you got to put him in there.
Especially in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, but then when you factor in the playoffs into that equation, well, now you're taking him out of your top 10, which I understand that. I understand it, but I don't think it's all necessarily Dak's fault. And here's the problem. Yes, okay, some of it is Dax. I'm not saying it's not, but at the same time, it's also the developmental abilities of the Dallas Cowboys able to develop their quarterbacks. Number one, to get them into that postseason or past the postseason. So you got the developmental side, but then you also got the play calling side. And we all know that McCarthy's antiquated. We all know that Kellen Moore doesn't put enough motion in the offense that makes the Cowboys' offense predictable because they don't put the motion, they don't put things in there that are going to confuse the defense. So they're very predictable, and that's not Dak's fault. That's play calling fault. So I think some of it is play calling, some of it is the developmental process, and then some of it is just Dak himself. But to say that Dak's not a top 10 all because of Dak, to me, is not doing him justice or the process. You got to look at the whole situation of the Cowboys to understand why he's not a top 10, why he hasn't got further into the playoffs. And it's not just the players, it's the coaching staff. And we all know Jerry Jones isn't going to do that because he likes the yes men. That's just the nature of the Cowboys.
Now going into this year, I watched pretty much most of the game. I missed a little bit of the fourth quarter, but not much. They had more yards and penalties than they did passing yards and rushing yards. 119 was the yards and penalties. 118 was the yards and passing. That was heading into the first 3 quarters of the game. And now rushing yards was 108. So that's just to show you that part of the game just needs to be calmed down.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. You can say that penalties, I mean, if you look at every single stat between the Denver Broncos and the Dallas Cowboys in this game, you know, everything's close. Everything. I mean, even you can look at total yards. You know, you guys are at 324. We're at 316. That's 8 yards. Okay, great. You can look at number of plays. Dallas actually had more plays at 66. You guys had 63. So you can look at third down.
Yeah.
Freaking efficiency. We were 5 of 14. You were 5 of 13. I mean, everything damn near is down to the science. But the only reason that Broncos put up, 13 or 10 more points is strictly on penalties that Dallas, which again, this is prototypical of Dallas versus San Francisco with Garoppolo. You lost by 1 damn possession. You were halfway up the field. But the damn 16 penalties that you committed in the first half never let you get into a rhythm to score points in the first half. So it's the same damn thing. It's just Dallas did it in 1 quarter or 1 half in the playoffs, and this time they did it all in 1 game. So maybe they got better. Maybe they spread out that whole half into a game. So maybe we're better that way. I don't know. I'd have to break down, I guess, penalties by quarter to sum that up. But yeah, man, I mean, penalties is what's killing them. And that just comes from a lack of discipline. Well, where do they get the discipline from? They get it from Mike McCarthy. And again, Jerry Jones wants to write Mike McCarthy out. Why? Because he will give you what you want. He will say yes to you and not create a ruffle. Well, sometimes I think you need a damn ruffle. We need a Robert Kraft as our owner. Some of them will put a GM in. Well, I don't know if I want Robert Kraft because he got lucky with Bill Belichick and making him the GM, whatever. He just struck gold on that specific point. Robert Kraft is a smarter version of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones had Jimmy Johnson. Those two clashed, and so he got rid of Jimmy. He should have kept Jimmy. Robert Kraft basically said, Bill, you just do you. I don't care, whatever. I'm going to go hip here. I'm going to go hodgepodge with the owners. I'm going to, eat some caviar, whatever it is that rich people do. I'm going to do that. You just get me the damn rings. I don't care how you just give me the ring. And that's why Robert Kraft is so successful, because he let Bill do what Bill did. Had Jerry let Jimmy do what Jimmy needed to do, damn, I mean, how much further could the Cowboys have gotten? You know what I mean? So really, when we ask about the penalties, we ask about this, we ask about that, the Cowboys, it doesn't just go to the coach. It goes all the way up to the owner, because the owner facilitates who the coach is. Why? Because he's a freaking GM too. So I was like, what do you do?
We spent probably most of the show talking about the Dallas Cowboys, but now let's go into the Denver Broncos side of things. I am disappointed that we did not see a lot of running game from the Denver Broncos. Only 39 yards the entire game from the rushing offense. And most of the game, there was a lot of first part of it, there's a lot of incompletions by Josh Johnson, but then we got into three different scoring. We got to three back-to-back scoring drives, including 2 touchdowns, and then the last one being there was 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal in that game, and that's where our 17 points came from. Honestly, that was the biggest takeaway for me, was that running game that needs to be improved.
Yeah, I like, I thought Virgil did a good job. He went 3 catches, 83 yards, 27. So he looks like to be I thought he was a really good deep threat for you guys. I think Johnson himself as your quarterback did a good job. He went 16-23 with the 120 rating, 2 touchdowns. So I think what I learned from that is that you guys, even though Russell's your star quarterback, I think you got a pretty good solid backup in Johnson. And I think outside of Jerry Jeudy, I think Vigil, could be that next guy that helps you in your receiving game as well. And again, you can look at the rushing yards, and I think you had Scott the third, which gave you 20 on, which I think he was averaging 3. It wasn't the number of carries. He had 22 carries. For me, the problem with your running game is no matter who you put in there, nobody got above 3.3 yards per average. And I think to make it in the NFL, you got to be at least above 4. You got to be at least 4.3 or 4.4, somewhere in that neighborhood, yards per carry, in my opinion, to have an effective running game. And none of your guys can get you that. So, Melvin Gordon, that's going to be your stud running back. And they're going to have to rely heavily on him. I don't know. Beyond that, I didn't look at your depth chart, but who on your team comes behind Melvin Gordon?
Oh gosh, I forgot his name. He was drafted. He was like an undrafted guy. He didn't play either. He didn't play either in this game. But it's like a neck-to-neck battle between
Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams. Yes, that's what it was. It's a neck-to-neck battle between both of these guys. So I think they're going to split it. I think really Javonte Williams is going to get a little bit more carries, but not by much than Melvin Gordon.
That's fine, because honestly, he needs to, because one thing about Melvin Gordon is he does get hurt. As a matter of fact, I think he's coming off injury during this training camp. So if you got like a guy like Javonte Williams that'll give you 4+, then it's going to give Gordon more time to, I guess, continue to recover and work his way back into playing shape or what have you. So that's not a bad thing at all. Again, like I said, I thought your receiving actually performed well. I think your quarterbacks did well. But I think beyond Javonte and Melvin, the rest of your running backs are, to me at least, in preseason game 1. Now, things always change. But in preseason game 1, the running game definitely was a non-factor for you guys.
Yeah.
I was looking at your defense. I'm not really as familiar with your defense, but it looked like you guys got a couple of sacks. It looks like Browning got you a sack, and he got you a tackle for loss. He had 3 solos, so that's a good bright spot in your game. Then you also had Combo, who got you a solo sack and a tackle for loss. So again, it's good to see these young guys getting involved on that aspect.
Now, looking at the injury side of things, Tim Patrick's out for the year. Courtland Sutton, he's not out of the year, but he is hurt, and I'm not quite sure for how long, though.
Okay.
Do you see any of these guys as a receiving core? Do you see any of them making the a starting appearance? Because you see any of them do that?
Yeah. So your wideouts are basically Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, and then you have Kamler, who's questionable as your slot guy or your third guy. And then you said the injuries. Yeah, so you got Gordon, you got Randy Gregory's out, questionable. Okay. Yeah, Tim Patrick. That's the one that really kind of surprised me, because he's really, correct me if I'm wrong, but he also does punt returns, correct?
Yeah, he does a little bit of that too.
Yeah. So to me, that was the biggest killer. That ACL, yeah, you won't ever see him again. He's done. You won't see him until maybe next year
Yeah,
or maybe
that
even
was
close to the year
my
after.
that was my
Um,
pick as like a surprise player of the year because last year, looking at his stats from last year, he's the only receiver in the NFL to not drop a catch.
yeah. Yeah, Patrick, he's definitely gone. And then you got Camler, your other wide receiver, who is also coming off a season injury, ACL. It looks like they must have had week 3 of the 21 season. He's questionable. So I think you'll probably see him most likely within the first 3 weeks. I would say week 3.
Yeah,
He's
he's
listed as
like
questionable now. I would give him, cautionary week 3. You might get him back in there. But yeah, Patrick, when I saw that happen, I think that happened before training camp, didn't it?
yeah, it happened during no, it happened during training camp, but like
Oh,
very
was it
very
training camp?
beginning,
Okay.
very
Okay.
beginning.
Yeah, it must have been at the very beginning because I remember talking to Logan. I said, "Man, Patrick." I was telling him, I said, "The Broncos guy Patrick tore his ACL and he's out for the year." And I was like, I didn't even think that training camp had even started at that point. I guess I was out of my mind, but either way, man. I think with the depth that you have at wide receiver, especially with that guy Virgil, I still need to see more from him throughout the other 2 preseason games that you guys will play. But he could fill in nicely, and it looked like you guys averaged 45 yards. It was, I believe, in the game on your receiving or your punt return. There's a kick return on that side of the ball. I believe you had like 40. You averaged two returns for 45 yards. If I saw that right. Let me see here.
Um, 2 returns for 45 yards. That looks like. Oh, I'm
So
looking at the. Yeah, for
yeah,
Montel Washington. Yeah,
yeah. So he got you 2 recoveries for 45 yards, and then it looks like Washington, yeah, he got you. So yeah, he got you 40. That's 22 yards on a punt return,
that's
which I mean that's pretty good.
he also
47 was his
was
longest, and then you had McManus that did 1 kick return for 52. So in all honesty, y'all did pretty good.
he also has been the star of training camp so far. Even Russell Wilson, that's that guy right there, Montreal Washington. He's the only receiver that has been praised by Russell Wilson. I guess what I'm trying to say. Been received a compliment by Russell Wilson. In fact, the only player that Russell Wilson gave a compliment to.
Yeah, and again, when I look at the Broncos, you guys are just in such an incredibly uh, difficult, difficult division. With the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders, and all the things that they are bringing to the table. But again, I think the signing of Russell Wilson, I think the backup of Johnson, I think the if you're the only question for me is how Javante and Melvin are going to do in your running game, and if they give you, good production at that level, that doesn't be spectacular, but it needs to be good. And if you can get good production out of that run game, I still think you get a pretty solid receiving core in what you have. So I mean, I think you guys could do some things there. My only question is I'm still not completely sold on Hackett as your coach. I mean, he looked good because of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, let's be honest. But the quarterback coach that the Bears got was actually more instrumental in Aaron Rodgers' development than Hackett was. But still, I think they brought on Hackett in hopes that they could bring in Rodgers. You know, but again, you got Wilson. So again, and both these guys have 1 Super Bowl apiece. So I don't know. I think your status quo in terms of Wilson versus Rodgers there. I think you guys got what it takes. I think you might be 1 or 2 players, but again, you got 2 more preseason games. But I think the Broncos can make some noise in that division for sure.
Yeah, we
A
need
lot of
to.
people had them last. I don't have them last. I got them at 3rd place, to be honest with you.
I have them last,
Do you have them last?
but
Okay.
I have them having the same record as the third place team.
Ah, but you had the first place team. You basically you had the Raiders beating the Broncos, but having the same record.
No, I actually have the
Is that what you're
Chiefs and the
saying?
Broncos of the same record.
You said what?
I have the Chiefs and the Broncos having the same record.
Oh, did you put the Chiefs down in third place?
Yeah.
Hey, hey, what a time to be alive.
10 and
That'd be
7.
if it happens that way. Hey, I'm not saying it can't. Hey, what the Chargers are putting together, the one that gets me is not so much the Chargers. I think the Chargers probably could take that division. I think it's more the Raiders. I don't know. I mean, you got the Raiders I guess in second, right?
Nope,
You got the
first.
Chargers in first.
Flip that. I like what the Raiders are building.
You're putting the Raiders at number one.
12 and 5.
Are we P testing this in this network? I'm giving you a hard time. Hey, look, man. The Raiders made the playoffs last year when nobody thought they could. Derek Carr managed to quarterback a team that was in full freaking disarray from that damn head coach to freaking Ruggs.
I think
So the fact that
I
he
think
kept
that
that team.
I think that the Chargers have a better roster overall. I just don't like, looking at the coach from last year. He's made some brain farts, if you know what I mean. He's done
Yeah,
some questionable calls. Mostly he's done well, but there's been one or two times where he's made plays that ended up losing games because of that.
well, if anybody knows Josh McDaniels, it should be you, Nate.
Yeah,
He was the head coach of your very sad team that year. And he left after that year and went back with his tail between his legs to Bill Belichick and had to reassert himself again. So, based on his performance in Denver, you think he's learned enough from that experience to now leading the Raiders that you have in first place? You think he's going to make that big of a quantum jump?
yeah. In fact, looking at that year, if I remember correctly, he started off that year. That was the year that the Broncos ended up going 5-0 and missing the playoffs. Like won the first 5 games and missed that playoffs.
Right.
And didn't I think Tim Tebow. That was the first year Tim Tebow started.
Yeah, Tebow was part of his group.
Yeah, he was started like the last part of that series, and that's why Josh McDaniels left. Because he was kind of, by a lot of Denver fans, I was too young to. I actually wasn't even paying attention to football when this happened. I didn't really start to follow it until about 2011, that year that Tim Tebow led the Broncos to playoff victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that really a lot of Denver fans during that moment were criticizing the media, and they kind of put Josh McDaniels in a lose-lose situation. So I feel like going into Las Vegas, he has a little bit of a better shot.
Yeah, I mean, so his head coaching record is 11-17, so he's an under 500 coach. But again, I can understand what you're saying because it was partially in turmoil of who was going to be your quarterback and things of that nature. So and of course Tebow, he's more of a gadget quarterback in the NFL level than anything else. So I get what you're saying about that. I just wonder, I mean, this really is going to be can he be that guy like Pete Carroll? Pete Carroll was abysmal with the Patriots when he first came into the league. Took some time off, went back to college, took over USC, and then came back in with Seattle. Of course, you know how that turned out. They got the Super Bowl. So maybe this is maybe Josh McDaniels' rebirth under Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, and so forth. Maybe he can get reborn and hopefully had that same type of success. Not that I hope so, because that's Logan's team. But whatever, it's all
good. Because Russ is with us, I don't really hate the Seattle Seahawks anymore. I don't know. I'll root for them. I just don't hate them.
You said the minute you got Russ, you're like, yes.
That was our revenge. Just don't tell my brother I said that.
Yeah, my lips are sealed.
Anything else that you want to say before we give this to close?
No, just hey man, I appreciate letting me come on and rep my Cowboys and good talking some football with you with the Broncos and whatnot. I see good things for your franchise. I see probably a status quo for mine, and I'm okay with status quo because quite honestly, we lost a lot, and so if I can stay status quo, that'd be great. Maybe even a little less at wild card. We'll see. I'm not being too optimistic right now. I'm kind of a little sad, but it is what it is. But still, we got football back. What a time to be alive! And if I may, unscripted, catch our show Tuesdays, Thursdays, 7 Eastern, and Saturdays, 8 Eastern on the All Sports All Plays Network. And man, it's time to be alive. Thank you for having me on.
On the All Sports All Plays Network, I definitely have some things coming up on there as well. But as for this network, the Man Hour Sports Network, Man Hour Football Network, next week I have another special guest to cover the Denver Broncos Buffalo Bills game. Even though I'm having a hard time trying to find somebody that's a Buffalo Bills fan, I ended up finding a guest anyway that will be able to cover it because he's a Josh Allen fan.
Nice.
Mike Hughes will be coming on and hopping on to cover the post game for the Broncos and the Bills. Stay tuned in for that one. This has been Nate the Great with Jay McMinn signing out, and we'll see you next week.